Hello, this is Hi Bob Warbob, and let's play some Ultimate General Civil War.
Hello and welcome. So, this video is going to be both long and short. So, what I did is I went around and I made a ton of just barely 3-star units. And by a ton, I mean this is over half a core here. So that's most of a core here. Not most, but it's more than half of a core. This core I made all 3-star artillery. It's 3-star by a bit more than, but it's all like really low leaders and 3-star snipers. And then over here, these guys are not quite 3 stars, but they're like 87 to about, let's see, what's this? Is this the lowest guy here? Probably. This guy's the lowest guy. So about 87 to 66, somewhere around in there, in between the two. Depending on the general and all that. But for the most part, they're pretty similar. I think that some of these guys are a little bit different, but most of them are pretty close. So their melee drops down a little bit down here, but their firearms goes up by just a little bit. And then, of course, these are the same level of snipers as on the other one. And then we have 2 more cores of all 3-star infantry. So that is 48 units in these 2 cores, and then another 15. So it's like 63 units. 63 units of 3-star infantry. Not bad. And then 20 units of 2-star infantry, which, you know, I don't think they're going to make it to 3-star in the next battle. And I did get rid of my unit that could actually make more 3-star men. This guy can make kind of 3 stars, but not very good. Yeah, he's only like a 10, which is okay. I mean, it's not great, but it's okay. I'll show you the guy that I made them all with. Okay, so I went ahead and loaded that save. And see, this guy is the guy. 38 experience with a no bar kernel. So basically what we did is we took the really good melee cav and then we put it on a pair of units of skirmishers. I mean, we multiplied it up a little bit to get 300 on both skirmishers and boosted its firearms to an astronomical rate. You guys didn't get to see that fight because it's kind of a bonus fight, and it didn't record it because I was testing the idea, and it worked out so well that I had to keep it because it just worked out too well. My losses were still pretty similar. Still at that like 1.5. I think I might have taken 1.7 on the other one that I did, that I actually recorded. But I had to go all the way back to before Hall's Ferry to redo my camp phase. And that camp phase is extremely long. It took me about, I think it was like an hour and maybe 2 hours almost to redo that camp phase again, like, because I redid it several times. It was not just once. Let's see here, how long was it? An hour and 42 minutes. And if you guys really want it, down in the comments below, tell me that you want to see that full camp, and I will do a rundown kind of like this one, and then a whole camp, just like in this one. Because as soon as we get done talking here, will be a 4 times speeded up version of this entire camp phase for your viewing pleasure. Sorry about that. Wife got a call. So that's my entire army going forward. Was the other one, obviously, not this one. To do that, the basic idea is that you take all of your 2-star generals and you put them on your first 2 cores here. 3 stars, all the way down to 2 stars. And doing that gets them all in one place. The one thing I regret is that I would have put all these extra 2 stars that are on these, that were on my really good units. This is already like partway through the whole thing. Oh, this is where I messed up. So I took some of my, I don't know what this is. This is weird. Are these all already 3-star? Okay, these are already 3-star. I just haven't done my this core yet, is all it is. Okay, so what I would have done is on the units that were the high ranking units, I would have not had 2-star people on them. I would have put those 2 stars on like these units that I wasn't going to use, like the lower end ones, because it ended up being kind of weird. Like I had this guy on one of the high ranking units that I had, one of these guys. Well, that then until you got to that guy, then you didn't use him, or it's just weird. It's better if all the 2 stars that you have are put in order all the way down through here, however far. Then what happens is once you get done with all of these 2 stars, then you come back and you go ahead and take these out and use them. And then that finishes up these last guys here. So I guess it would have been the last 15 would have gone here just to get them out of the way, because you don't want a whole bunch of generals in here getting in your way of doing the right things in the right order. Because like whenever you break down 5 of these units, then you come over here and you make 5 units, and whatever you have left over then gets a non 2-star general, and then you top all those off, and then you go back and do it again. And if you need an extra general because you're running low, then you can come over here, just grab a general off real quick, and go from there. So overall, I think it went really well. And this is a really short camp, you know, because it's only 8.5 minutes long, but then there is like 50 minutes of 4 times speed footage after this. So you guys have a good one, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. So, as you can probably guess, I don't really even look forward to watching this video. And I am not going to watch this entire video again. It is way too long. So, I'll go over some highlights here at the beginning, but after that, I'm not going to mess with it anymore. So basically what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get my weapons sorted into different places, because I know where I want different weapons to be, and I try to get them to the right places so that they will be there later. Because whenever they're all spread out all over the place, it's really hard to tell what weapons you can sell, what weapons you need to keep, and overall just keeping them organized just makes the whole thing easier. So here I just put away all of the new units that I got, all the new men I got. So what I'm doing here is I am going to break down all the 20Ps because they have about the same stats for all of them. And I'm giving everybody like just colonels or even majors instead of giving them good, or even lieutenant colonels, instead of giving them good commanders, because I want all these 2 stars. I want to use them all places. So then I kind of go through here and I sort them out. I got the snipers up top and I got the 10Ps down below. Some of them had like better melee stats, so I went ahead and kept them separate, just to keep them separate. So then we make our units to get all those men out of the way, give them a lieutenant colonel, and then what I'm deciding here is which one I want to be the one that I mix with the cav that I have. So the cav that I have, I need exactly a certain number of men for it. I can't remember exactly how I did it though. No, that wasn't it. Okay. That best snipe was it down there. I must have already done that earlier. That best snipe 2. And maybe there's also... No, because best snipe 2, I just made him a full 500. And then I can break that guy down and make him into... So I was looking for the best infantry unit that I had. I knew there was one that had really high stats, so I went ahead and put that on the sniper up there. And then I'm just kind of looking through them, seeing what I need to find. So I break down all the snipers, and I can stack them into like 1 or 2. I'm going to put a few in a different one, I think, because I don't want to have just a few by themselves. But that 138 is kind of important because that's how many more men I'll need. I can't remember what I do with 138. Yeah, I put it in that one because there's just no reason to have like another one. I'll calculate that out later, how many men to put in to the snipers. I believe it comes to like 293 each is what it comes to. I'll show you the calculations and stuff while I'm working. So there, I'm just topping off all the units that I just used with not raw recruits, but like just kind of basic guys from this front table. Getting rid of all the extra men there. And now starts the process of going through and moving off all the 2 stars. We're going to sort them all out so that we can get them into the right places going forward. We don't want them to be in with our infantry that'll be going in this time. So there we start putting them down, the really high three stars that we have. As you can see, we've used up almost all of our best, all of our worst ones, and all we have left is a bunch of really low ones. So then I start actually like sorting it the rest of the way, because I find some more 3-star guys that I hadn't put in, and I'm just being, a little bit picky at this point, trying to get them all in order. You don't have to put them in like absolute order or anything. It's just what I like to do, or what I found I like to do in this instance. I know I do a lot of different things, and part of that's just because I find that every once in a while I find a better way to do it, or I find that this specific situation calls for something a little bit different. And this is rather different than what I normally do, because like after the last one, I put all my 2 stars in my units that were going to be in that battle because I wanted to gain as much experience as I could so that they would be better now for doing this with. Because basically I'm using their command line to try to get 3 stars on units that shouldn't have 3 stars. Is basically what I'm going for here. See, that's part of the problem, is that I should have put all the 2 stars like in here, and I should have actually gotten them all out before I started in putting them in anywhere, but I didn't. I'm a little disappointed in myself. Now I'm just trying to get everything sorted out. I don't know what all I'm trying to sort, but just trying to make sure that I get them all where I want them. So those guys aren't very good. I'm going through and I'm sorting some of them with the no bar 3 star kernel to make sure that I figure out exactly what some of their stats are, if I need to, which ones I should keep, which ones I should break down. I want to keep the lowest stat ones, and I want to break down the highest stat ones because I want to mix the highest ones with the 3-star units that I've made, which then allows me to gain more 3 stars. And the number of them that I want to do this with is relatively flexible. I'm basically just looking to do it with enough of them that I use up most of the 3 stars while using a lot of it on them. I think maybe the best way to do it would actually be to do it the opposite of this, which would be to do all, like, start at your highest one and work your way down to the lowest one instead of starting at my lowest ones and working my way all the way up. Because then you know how far you can go. So there, I just move them all over, and I get ready to start duplicating that best snipe too. I'm just making sure that I haven't missed anything. Feeling pretty good at this point. So I haven't actually duplicated them yet. Somehow I forgot that I hadn't duplicated them yet. Got them all all the 2 stars out there. Should have left them on some of these guys probably instead. Should have just let them go on these guys as I was making them, because that would just make more sense. These are the units that I'm actually going to keep here. Oh, I was trying to have the lowest ones on these guys. That's what it was. I don't know why I did it that way. It would have made more sense to do it the other way. So then I take the rest of the 2 stars out of here. Yeah, I didn't need to put them there to begin with. So I'm just trying to pick a arbitrary number, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to mix units with them. Here we go. I'm making those really good units now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down a bunch of junk, like brand new baseline recruits, and put them into these really good units here. Man, this is not real exciting. Pretty soon I'm just going to leave you guys to it, and you guys can figure the rest out yourself, because I'm pretty sure you're going to get tired of hearing my voice at some point. I leave 800 of the sharps just so I have a backup if I need to make a couple of random units of snipers. I mean, not snipers, but skirmishers at some point. after I've used up all my regular sniper rifles. Just kind of looking through everything. Every once in a while, I just have to think through some things, and it just takes a little bit, and that's kind of what some of this is. Maybe I'm looking for that really good unit again. No, I'm looking for certain rifles. That's what it is. Certain rifles I want to move off of these guys and move to the units that I'm making. Part of the reason why I want to have my best officers on my best troops is because then they don't have to drop in stats as much to gain the 3 stars, so it takes less men to do it. And obviously it's better for them to have the higher ranking units on them. I think I could speed this up to like 1,000 times speed and nobody would miss it. This takes a long time. Just going through, making sure everything's in the right places, and I have a lot of... You gotta spread out your weapons on these things, because if you don't, you'll accidentally end up buying weapons while you're doing it, and you don't really want to buy weapons if you can help it. So then you take a couple of those, split them off, and make them 500-man units. And that's why you want a bunch of one type of gun, so that you can pick that same gun multiple times and then make them into 2,500-man units without accidentally making any mistakes. Just have to look for guns that have enough of them that you could actually do that with. Okay, so now we're gonna finish off what we can of these, and then whatever we have left over at the end, we will just throw on something else. I don't know exactly what I'm thinking there. Oh, I'm going to sell off those guns because I'm not going to use any Colts anymore. Trying to decide whether or not to sell those off. I decide to go ahead and sell them off because I don't need them. And that leaves us with 2,133 of the just baseline troops. And we'll just throw them in later into wherever. It just doesn't, they aren't really worth spending money on another 2,000 of them, I don't think. We don't even really have enough money to do that unless we started selling some more stuff, and we've pretty much already sold everything. One thing that you can do is I could take supply out of some of my other wagons that I'm not going to use in this upcoming battle to do that, and then put the money back in from the next battle, because I think you get like 170,000 from each of these battles. It's 165k. So yeah, you could easily do this differently. So what I'm doing here is I am just slowly, I guess I'm picking out generals to be in charge of them. Taking my time. I don't know what I'm doing there. But we've... Oh, I'm breaking them all down. That's what it is. Okay. So I was breaking down all of those units so that then I could make them all the exact same stats. And then I started realizing that some of the higher 3-star generals that I had actually didn't work because they would make a 3-star unit with extra experience on top of that. And that would kind of defeat the purpose of going through all this work that I'm about to do to spread out all of the experience. So if I were to just take the same number of units in my army, I need to actually do this in a video or the video. So what you would do is you would just take all of the units that I turned into really good 3 stars. You take all of them, and you would take all the units that I broke down and mixed them with, and then you see how many 3 stars you can make out of that without having to like mix manually, like what I did, where you just get enough experience with every single unit. And I kind of tried it. I did all of it, and I just mixed them all together on, but it wasn't with these specific units. It was before, whenever I had a lower unit than these ones. And it did not work very well, because I ended up with a lot of extra experience on some of those units that have high generals on them, and then you end up with not enough experience towards the bottom end of your generals. So once you get down to like a 2-star general with like 10, 15, 20% of experience, you no longer make 3 stars. So you have to like manually go through and do that. So what I've done in the past is, if you start at the bottom where you have the most chance of losing, you can then, once you get to a certain point, then just break down everything that's left and just make as many, like make the rest of them at that point. And that's what I did for my 2 stars. So some of my 2 stars had more experience than the worst of them, and the worst of the generals would also have the worst men, and that works out perfect, because then my worst generals can gain more experience. And that's another reason why you want your worst generals to be in charge of your worst men, because it goes well together. They gain more experience, and those units gain more experience, both. Not because of the general, but you put them in more risky situations. You're more willing to lose a general if it's a low general than if it's a high general. You don't want to put an infantry unit with a 3-star general in the middle of a firefight standing in the open. Like, that's just not a good way to play that. So this is a lot of talking. I just recorded the first part as well. So here, what you do is you just go through all of these, and you make units out of the bad men that you have, the lower end men. Then you just add good men until they turn into 3 stars, and then you just keep doing that back and forth until you get to a max size unit, because I use max size units. You can do it for whatever size unit you want. It doesn't matter. The same ideas still hold true. And if you save often, you can jump back to a previous save. But in all reality, what you can just do is, if you clear out your manpower pool, delete the unit. Let's say it got to 2,500 and it didn't have 3 stars, it had 2 stars and 99% experience. What you do is you just break down that unit, take out 2 or 3 men. Well, no, you make a new unit with 2 or 3 men lower than 2,500 if you have really high 3 stars, like what I'm working with here. More like 50 men if you think you were off by a lot, then you act accordingly. So you pull out a few men, a few being 1 to 50, whatever. If you have a really high 3-star, like this one is with a 3-star general, almost with an almost max 3-star general, this unit that I duplicated is a 72 experience 3-star unit. Even with the lowest 3-star, or like let's say with a 2-star, with a lieutenant colonel with no bar, it's still a 28 over 3-star, which means that you have a really good chance of gaining a whole bunch of your EXP bar with each man. It's crazy how much experience these units have. They're expensive. They cost like 92 money per man whenever you do veterans, but it's a way better deal than if you do like an 80, because the firearms and the melee at 100 along with the stamina morale, like I could, if I had a unit that had like low stamina and low morale, every single one of my units besides that one would have max stamina and max morale already, and that would be a unit that I would want to duplicate. If I could get a 100 melee, 100 firearm, 90 or 70% efficiency. Let's see, what is this guy? This guy is 77% efficiency, 85 firearms and 100 melee. If I could get that guy with a morale of like 20 and a stamina of 20, that would be the perfect unit to hold on to this point in the game to duplicate, because at this point all of your units have max morale, max stamina, and all you need is a unit that's cheaper to reproduce that then you can mix with those units to boost their stats through the roof. Because all of these other units that have been in all these battles, even if I add raw recruits to them, their melee and their stamina and morale don't drop immediately, because they've got over 100 stamina and over 100 morale on a lot of them, and some of them is by quite a bit. And whenever I say 20 morale and 20 stamina, I really mean more like 40 or 50. You don't want it to be actually 20, but while you're getting that much firearms and melee, you're probably going to get that much stamina and morale as well. But maybe you just hold back with the unit. Let it get into a bunch of fights, gain a bunch of stamina, gain a bunch of melee and a bunch of firearms, but you don't run it around in circles on purpose so that you only have 80 stamina. You don't bring it to every single battle for the full amount of time, so you don't max out that morale. It's a thought. It's a thought that I'm having right now. I would love to do this, but I would need to go back several battles and pick out some units to do this with, and to make sure that you don't max out their stamina and morale is kind of difficult, because they're just so easy to gain compared to the other stats, but you have to pay for any stat that you have, even if it's over 100 and gains you no experience. So you want a unit with low morale and low stamina, like just at 100 or lower. Because if you're having to pay for 110 morale whenever all you can have is 100, and all the units that you're mixing it with have 100 morale and 100 stamina, you're not gaining any benefit from this unit. The only benefits you gain are from firearms and melee, and this unit has over 100 melee. It's more like 110, I think. I can't tell for sure, but I can add raw recruits to this guy, and he doesn't go down as fast as he should for being a very low, like your base recruits are like really low on melee. I'll have to look. I'm in the game as well, so I can pull up in the game what I'm kind of thinking about here, and I can kind of talk through it a little. So Oh, first I have to get rid of... Man, that's just bad. Okay, fine. So I have to get rid of all the junk, new infantry that I have here before I can actually test what I'm talking about here. So if you guys could bear with me. I know that you guys understand that this isn't going to be the most exciting. And really and truly, none of you should still be here because I don't want to be here. And that pretty much means that you shouldn't want to be here either. But it is informative, if nothing else. So I've got that going for me. 833. So whenever I take this unit, I'm just going to take both of them. So it's going to be both Best Snipe 1 and Best Snipe 2. And that comes out to about 586 men. So whenever I put that guy down, 586 men in a unit, and I take my raw recruits and I add them in. Oh, I gotta make sure my general is not a infantry general. Okay, there we go. Now I'll be able to see it immediately as soon as it drops below 100. I had to add 175, 177, 176 men. Had to add 176 men to get it to drop down to 100 with men that have 24 melee instead of 100. So if they had 24 melee, that's 1/4 the melee. But I had to add almost 1/4 of the men as well. Because I had 586 to begin with, and I added 176. So 500, 176 divided by 586, 30%. So I had to add 30% of my original total and their 1/4 of the stats of these guys. So obviously it should fall a lot faster than that. So like our firearms fell from 85. Okay, so the firearms on this is 24 and our firearms are 85. So whenever I add 176 men, my firearms drops to 71 from 85, which means I lost 14 firearms, which is a lower stat, so it should fall slower at the same number of men. So I'm guessing it's close to 125 melee. That would be my just educated random guess. And I'm sure that in some of these you see that we've got a pretty high melee stat. Let's look at our done. With some of our do we have any high generals? No, because high generals wouldn't actually work that well. Let's see. Yeah, there are high generals with like 54 melee or whatever, but that doesn't really count. Like, I am kind of impressed that it's the low generals that would actually get better stats, right? Not the high generals. That's kind of sad that your high generals actually get worse stats. Yeah, our low generals get like 61 melee and 60 or 61 firearms. That's crazy. I'm not sure I realized just how high the stats on some of these guys are. 59 firearms, 68 melee. Even the low ones with the like best generals on them have 53 firearms and 57 melee. That's still nothing to sneeze about, man. Like, that's some good numbers still. And over here, in amongst these guys, yeah, it's like 60 or 61 each. That's really good. I'm pretty happy with having, with a general that gives +5 to melee and 5 to firearms, it's a 60. And then once you take the perk for firearms, and then another perk, the sharpshooter perk, gives you another 5 firearms, then at this point you're up to what, 75 firearms? And I have 57 efficiency and then gain 15 more. So I'm looking at having 72 efficiency? Is that right? Is that what these guys have? Oh wait, I don't have any of them actually perked out. Let's perk out this guy. Let's perk out one of the low bar 2-star generals, just to see what it looks like. See if I can find one of the lowest ones. Okay, here we go. 60, 69. So 60 firearms, 69 melee. Let's perk them out. Endurance course, marksman training, and sharpshooter. So we go to having 70 efficiency, 100 morale, 100 stamina, 75 firearms, and 69 melee. That's some sick stats right there. I'm guessing some of these guys are probably, I think that one guy that I was looking at was even higher than that, wasn't he? Nah. These guys aren't nearly as high as that other guy. So I guess 55 or 57 goes to 57 would go to 72, yeah. So somehow this guy has higher efficiency, 72 efficiency, but a lot lower melee. I don't know. Some of these guys I mixed with different troops, so they might have turned out a little bit different, just because I had to, ran out of the really good 3 stars at some point, and I just had to use what I had available, which are still really good units. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't have anything against any of these units that I have set up here, but the fact that I'm able to gain, you know, what I say, 15 efficiency, 5 to firearms, and 10 spotting, just for going through this process on all these units, like, the fact that I can even make 3-star units with infantry, much less have, what did we come up with? We had 24, 24, so that's 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63. 63 3-star infantry, 20 3-star artillery, and 9 3-star snipers, and the rest of the infantry going from about 87% 2-star to about, what was it, like 60%? 66% 2-star. I mean, I think that's crazy insane. Now, of course, I'm about to gain like 17k troops after this one, and a large chunk of money, but I want to keep that money. I want to buy the rest of the Richmonds, and that'll cost me like 230,000, and I want to get the CS Richmonds in the government spending, and I'm not sure I can even use the men from the government unless I decide to break down a bunch of my artillery, and I'm already down to only having like 1 core of artillery, or my cav. I could break down my cav, I guess, but I don't want to do either one of those things, really. I will do it for a gag. I will break down all of my cav, all of my not snipers. I won't break down all my snipers, probably. Just all my artillery and all my melee cav, and all of my 2-star infantry, and I will merge them all together, and I will make a 100% infantry army except for snipers. So like just snipers and infantry, and that's it. And I'll try to beat Washington with that at least once. But the first time I beat Washington, it's going to be a real fight. We're not going to do anything crazy the first time. But as soon as I get done with the first one, then I might leave my 20 Ps. Just because 20 Ps are so good. And I think that once I get rid of all the 10 Ps, I will have enough open slots that I'll be able to make men for all those spots. And if I can, and maybe the melee cav, I don't know. Maybe I'll have to break down like 1 or 2 of the melee cav. Because right now I only have 4 open slots. I'm about to gain 17 or 18,000 men. And if I gain 18,000 men, and on top of that, the 8,000 men from the reputation, that'll give me 26,000 men. And at 2,500 men each, that would take up 4, 4, and 3 slots. 4, 4, and 3, so 11 slots, and I only have 4 slots. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It won't even take up all the spots that I have for 10 Ps. Just like half the 10 Ps, I guess. I won't even have to break down my cav. Of course, breaking down that number of 10 Ps will give me more men to throw in, but I think it's a low enough amount that it will all kind of balance out. I haven't even been looking at the video going on in the background here. Just been going off on crazy tangents. I mean, it's all the same kind of stuff. You just add men until it goes to 2 stars, maybe add a couple more, then you add a few until it goes to 3 stars, and then you just repeat the process trying to get to 2,500 men. And it takes time, a lot of time, and it's not exciting. Especially the part where you had to like remake the units over here that are just junk. Like, that's the most annoying part, probably. But as you can tell, all these units are just so good. Like, I know that their stats aren't like through the roof or anything, but having this many 3-star infantry, I don't know if anybody's ever done that on Legendary or not. You'd have to ask. Well, hey, Pandakraut. There's comments below. Let me know. I'm definitely gonna send you a message on Discord or something, being like, hey, let me know. I want to know how many 3-star units do you think I can make? How many 3-star infantry do you think I can make? Max size. Oh, I have Discord up right now. Let's go ask Pandakraut live. Hey, Panda. How many 3-star infantry do you think I can make before Hardin Pike? Hardin Pike. So we'll see if he answers. In the meantime, we get to have the exciting time here of adding a few more men in here and there. Yep, that all worked. And of course, some of these I'll be off by just a little bit. Just going through here, checking to make sure they're all 3 stars. So now I am sorting these all out. Getting ready to break them all down and make out, I guess I'm doing 2 last ones to see if that'll work, I guess. Or 1 last one. I can't remember what I'm doing. Oh, 1650. Okay, so yeah, I had to do less because I had too good a 2 stars or whatever. So yeah, it doesn't need nearly as many of the... Or it needs more than what I thought it did, but less than what I originally had it at, I guess. So then we just kind of drop it down a little bit, and then we make that unit, and then we go for like 3 stars in a little bit, but not too much, hopefully, is the goal. I think we might have overshot it a bit. No, we overshot one of them, but the other one we didn't. Which is fine. It doesn't really matter. You don't have to be like real specific on the number. Man, Panda usually answers back like really fast. But evidently not today. Or not this moment. I mean, he answered me back really fast earlier. As you can tell, I'm a little out of it. I don't know why. I'm just... Well, for one thing, is this video. Like, this video is not exciting. 52 minutes into the whole video. That's fun. Fun, fun, fun. It's kind of amazing that it took as long as it has. I mean, playing at 4 times speed, you would think it'd be so much faster. So there I was just trying to figure out like what I wanted to do with those guys, whether or not I wanted to like just lightly dilute my units or what I was going to do. What I ended up going for is just getting enough men over there to get as good of men as possible in the artillery, make sure that my artillery is all good, and then just like I think break down everything else and use it all for the other corps. Just make them as good as possible, I think. Oh, I guess not. I guess I went ahead and decided on the units that were going to be in here. Oh, I made them all like 2,000. That's what it was. So I took that number and I divided it by 20, which is a pretty obvious number that it came to because like it's 40,000 divided by 20, which is 2,000, like, or pretty darn close to it. So I should have just known, basically. But at the same time, it's also kind of nice to just multiply it out. Just to make sure. And trying to guess at the last, like, 40 can take a long time sometimes. So, yeah, this takes a while. And I also want to have all 1863s and 1861s on this whole army. This whole corps. Obviously, on my army as a whole, I'm not going to be able to do that, but you deal with what you got. I think it's Hardin Pike is the next fight. I keep second guessing myself. Yeah, Hardin Pike's the next battle. Just making sure I wasn't like totally out of it. I am, but Not totally. Not as much as I could be. Man, this takes forever. So then I added the ones onto the rest of them, and then I'm going back and gonna top them all back off with not junk, but like some of the lower 3-star stuff I had, not the really nice stuff. If I used the really nice stuff, they'd almost gain a star probably on some of these, which might have been worth it. Like, I didn't actually like go min max on my artillery units. I could have, and that might have saved me a few min, but the size of your artillery units compared to the size of infantry units is just so small that the number of experienced men you use up in artillery units is just tiny comparatively. Whereas on some of these, I'm using up 400 experienced men to the 2,000 inexperienced men. With the artillery, it's like, it'd be, their size is only 350, so it'd be like 300 inexperienced to 50 experienced men, which, if you add up the waste there, it's going to be like 10 men per. It's just not worth it, really. Now all we have left is making all the artillery units and snipers, and then naming everything that's going to go into battle. I'm not going to name everything else. I noticed that with really low 1-stars, they can't maintain their efficiency with 14 guns. So I put those units on, they're going to be 20 Ps instead, so that then I don't lose any efficiency, which isn't really all that necessary, but just kind of seemed like the thing to do at the time. So I started realizing that I was being kind of stupid, and I should put all my 10 Ps across the top, and then all my 20 Ps on the next level, because it just makes more sense that way. As you can see, some of them already have 3 stars the way they are. I don't even need to add better troops to them, and I'm still going to add like the really nice troops to them anyway. They'll just gain even more experience to start off with. They will lose some firearms because the unit that I'm using here has over 100 firearms, but it's nowhere near as high as this melee is on these other guys. Man, the melee is just ridiculous on these guys. And their melee is still like 80 or 77 or something like that. It's crazy kind of numbers they have. Oh, I don't have any more here. That's too bad. Oh, here. Oh, this one's not the right. What are these guys? I really should have held back just a few of those really nice. Just like 500 of them. I kind of want to go back and redo this whole thing just to keep 500 of the really nice units. And what that would allow me to do is I could buy another unit of it, or like even just like 1,000 men of it, and that would just be that much more to mix in with all those units. I don't know how much difference it would actually make. So here I'm figuring out how many I need for each sniper, and then I realized that I did it wrong because you need to divide by 9, because I have 9 snipers, not 7 snipers. So it comes out to 293 each, which is pretty simple to do, but still takes a long time, even when sped up to 4 times speed. It's amazing how long things can take, even sped up that much. So these are adding those really nice units to all these guys. As you can see, even just adding a few men to these, they go way up in melee. And then here, I'm just adding what I have to. And then I just add to the lowest guys first, because you want to get away from being right on the 3-star mark, in case if I lose some men, if I lose a couple men in this, then I'll have to add, probably raw recruits will be a lot cheaper, because adding men to an artillery unit is so expensive. But after this battle, breaking everything down and putting all the men in will not be an option. That is easily obtainable. And I still have to leave one slot open on top of that to be able to move any units around during the battle, which is also rough. So maybe I'll be breaking down, I might be breaking down like 3 10Ps after this battle, like no matter what, just to make room for the like 17,500 men that I'm gonna gain. So I'll gain about 18,500, and then breaking down 3 10Ps would put me almost at 20k. So maybe I need to break down 4 or 5. I almost need to break down 5, because that would put me at, well, 4. No, because if I only broke down 4, it would put me at using up all the spaces I have. And I don't want to use up all the spaces I have. I want to have one space open. So probably need to break down 5 10Ps. That'll give me enough men probably to refill all my losses in my infantry and still have almost 20k raw recruits. It'll be, I mean, not raw recruits, but I mean the 10Ps and raw recruits will equal about that. I do have this 854 3-star over here, infantry. That's just junk that I could go ahead and break that down. So that would give me, so it would be 4 of those and this guy. That's what it is. 4 10Ps, this guy. That will give me enough slots to have one left over. And probably a few hundred recruits after I refill all those other units. And then I can take all those other units, break them down with these raw recruits I just gained, and spread out all that experience. Well, this has been a blast. Hope you guys have had as much fun as I've had. I'll see you again in the next episode. You guys have a good one,